Hello guys, welcome to the Linux tutorial series. So this is the part 2 of a Linux tutorial series, and in this video we will look onto a very important question, that is why Linux. So before starting the video, let's roll the intro. So yeah, welcome guys. So let's start with the question, that is why Linux. Before looking into why Linux, we shall look into the question, that is what is Linux, right? So you all may be wondering that Linux is an OS, which is operating system, but I am here to tell you that Linux is not an operating system, but it is an kernel. We will discuss all these important points, that what is OS and what is kernel, in the upcoming videos, but now for now you may take it as granted that Linux is not an OS but it is in kernel. Now moving forward, I want to tell you that using Linux kernel, many other operating system which you may be familiar of and you may have already used that operating system have been developed. One such big example is Android. Yes, Android operating system is using the Linux kernel for its development. Right. Now, as we are clear that Linux is in kernel, so let's jump to the question, that why Linux? Linux is everywhere, but you may have not realized that today every tech giant like Google, or may you refer to any other big tech giant, it is switching over to Linux. Though Google have already released its own operating system using Linux kernel, which they have named as Ubuntu, and this Ubuntu operating system they have basically made it only for their company employees, right? So Linux is becoming a big project since its existence, right? From US stock market to Japan's bullet train, every operating system is running on Linux kernel. The big reason behind its wider acceptance is that Linux comes free of cost under GNU license. Yes, Linux kernel is available for free, and yet it is also open source. By open source, I mean that the code for Linux kernel is available for everyone to look into and modify. If you want to contribute any new suggestion or any new stuff into the Linux kernel, it is totally free and totally acceptable. You may use the Linux kernel and develop an operating system of your own and distribute it, right? So another major reason why every companies are switching over the Linux kernel, or you can say that Linux based operating system, is that if the company, for say example, they have 50 employees. Now for those 50 employees they have to keep 50 computers, and each computer must be using some kind of operating system. But if they are using any paid type of operating systems like Microsoft Windows, they have to purchase it separately for the 50 computer, which will cost them a huge amount. But they can do a very much and very big amount of cost cutting for running their organization by using the operating system based on Linux kernel. So this is the major reason why there is a wider acceptance of Linux kernel in the market, right? So as more and more companies are switching over the Linux based operating system, it becomes essentials for everyone to have somewhere understanding of Linux and Linux commands, so that whenever you work on Linux based operating system in the companies, you have some prior knowledge about it, right? So that's the one biggest point that why you should learn Linux today. Also, I want to tell you that as Linux comes as world's largest open source project, if you are using Linux, you don't need to use any technical person, or you don't need to hire any technical person to solve your issues. You can search the issues directly on internet, and community is there for an indirect support. Although there are many paid distros of Linux which give you direct support, for example Red Hat, right? So some distributions, you can say that the some operating system which are based on Linux kernel are paid with some small amount, for which they provide you support and other important things. Red Hat also conducts some examination which certifies you as in Linux user, which are also paid, right? So after seeing all these points that why you should learn Linux, there are some major other important points we shall also look into, that why you should learn Linux. So let's jump into those points. So let's consider an example. Once, moving in the past, one thing which happened with me myself is that was uh, I was using a pen drive, and it worked absolutely fine on my Microsoft Windows laptop. But when I inserted the same pen drive into one of my friend's laptop which was using Mac operating system, and it doesn't work, I was wondered that why it happened. It absolutely worked fine into my laptop and my other friend's laptop which was also using Windows. But I was not able to understand that why the hell is pendrive not working on my friend's laptop which is using Mac, Apple's Mac operating system. So for looking into deep looking deep into this and studying after many things called as file systems, I was finally understandable that why this stuff is happening, that my pendrive is working on Microsoft Windows but it is not working on Mac operating system. So if you are a geek, right? If you are a geek and you are very much fond about learning computers, why you should stuck to only one operating system, which may be Windows, which may be Mac OS, or which may be Linux if you have already started to work upon it, right? If you are using only Windows, you shall look into the technology world, and you should also explore the other stuffs available in the market, right? If you are using Linux, you should also look into some other operating system which are there available in the market, right? You should use all of them, and you should explore all the things, and you should ultimately gain your knowledge. Also, if you are using Linux and you are a developer, it is very beneficial for you to use Linux, because if you use a version control system like Git, or if you are a web developer, so you may be using Node, or if you are in Python developer, you may be using Python. All these stuffs include some kinds of command line interface. In Python we install some packages using pip install, and in Node we use npm, which is Node package manager, to install some stuff into our computers. Also, Git provides us with Git Bash, which is completely an CLI interface. So, for understanding all these stuffs more better, you should learn Linux, right? Also, if you are a web developer or a full stack developer, when you deploy your project on any services like Google Cloud or any other cloud based services like DigitalOcean, Droplets, and Amazon Web Services, you will you will be ultimately deploying your project on some kind of server which will be based on Linux operating system, right? So if you learn Linux, you became basically more confident about the command line interface available in any kind of technology, not only bounded to only one kind of programmer or one kind of developer. But if you learn Linux, your confidence and your knowledge about command line interface boost up drastically, and you will be more confident about command line interface and using it on other technologies, right? So it will ultimately make you a better programmer. Also, Linux offers us many kinds of jobs which are available directly there in the market. If you learn Linux, many jobs are available as service administrator, server administrator, or Linux administrator. You can search for those jobs into any job provider services like Naukri.com or Internshala or any other kind of stuff. But if you learn Linux, you are basically becoming a better programmer, and Linux basically makes you to think that how computer is actually working. So if you are basically accepting what I am trying to say and what I have tried to explain you about, that why you should learn Linux, and if you are agreeing with me that yes, I am saying right, I should learn Linux, so go on and continue with this series and hit the like button on this video, and do subscribe our channel and share this video with your friends. Thank you. Let's meet in the next video. Bye bye.